The AEW television for May 31st was a mixed bag. Some of it was rotten and some of it was worse. Now, they started the show with the BBC against Felix and Penthouse and Bandido. So, of course, you have a group that fashions itself a bunch of British shooters, even though there's no British people in it, against a group of luchadors that is the ultimate style clash to anybody trying to do any kind of realistic ground and pound style pro wrestling. So, of course, this is a match Tony would make. And the intriguing thing about Moxley to me now, as I look at him, when he comes out, he's doing the entrance, the facials, the way he walks, he has convinced himself that he is a big star and a badass. I don't know how he talked himself into that, but he did. And remember, I've always said that that's half the battle. You've got to be convinced of who you are before you can make the people believe it.
Yeah.
I think he's stuck at half the battle because he's got all the confidence. Look at him. Look at the state of him. Look at the sunken chest. Look at the fucking buggy whip arms. Look at the flabby, pale, unimpressive physique. Look at the baldingness of him. And look at his phony looking fucking work.
Yeah, to me, that's the bigger issue. It's not even the way he looks, it's the way the work looks, if you actually look at it.
That's what what is everybody? I'm astonished. I'm fascinated. I'm trying to find something about this guy that would lead people to think that he's a star of some description.
There are people, I've said it too many times at this point, it's a cult of personality around Moxley, and there are people who like the idea that he is this guy that he's going to do his own thing and he has his own ideas. And, the front cover of his book is like this preposterous photo of him on an empty road with like the jackets hanging off his shoulder. I mean, it's like a total like Calvin Klein, like let's take a photo of someone if Calvin Klein started shooting people who looked like John Moxley. But I think that's what it is, because when I've been watching, because I hate to say it, but the listeners have become way too big of fans of the Moxley impression. So now I pay extra attention to his stuff just because I want to keep things real. And I'm watching his work and it's not good. I know there's a lot of shit happening, and maybe that's intentional. Every time he's going to do something, Wheeler and Claudio are doing something.
Yeah. So
there's stuff everywhere. But if you actually watch what he's doing, I'm not saying hurt people, but lay it in so it looks like it's hurting people.
No, there's nothing to it. There's no element of believable work to it. It's just he expects people to believe that he's got this aura of badassery because he drinks bones and eats blood. And then he's out there doing shit that doesn't connect with anything on anybody. And again, there's Bandido out there wearing what looks like a Silver Age Flash outfit and carrying an inflatable Thor hammer. And this is the first match on the show. They just start with a sloppy six-way, go to the floor in the first 30 seconds. There's guys going over the rail into the people. And after a while, two of the guys get in the ring and the bell rings while the others are still fighting on the floor. And that's what you were talking about. There's always a lot of shit going on. And we saw this with that. God, remember when they first started the program, the Dork Order jumped in and there was 10 guys in masks supposedly beating up the baby faces. And when you went and isolated anything, there was the guy punching the mat next to the baby face's head.
That's right.
And and it was ridiculous. They think because a lot of shit is going on at the same time that nobody's going to see their shit sucks. But the problem is you've got 5,000 people or however many. There's always somebody looking at you in an arena like that. How many, I don't know, but there's always somebody. And it's television. You don't know which shot they're taking. So it doesn't matter if you're in a fucking multiple person schmoz, your shit has to look professional. So anyway.
And by the way, Danielson was on commentary this whole time.
Yes, the best wrestler in the fucking company, and all he does is do commentary and then have fucking garbage matches with no rules in groups. It's like, here we've got fucking Jimi Hendrix. Let's put him in the fucking band back there and let him pick along with our lead guitarist. Did you see where Bandido picked old Wheeler up for a vertical suplex and held him for a count of 60?
Yeah, you see, I'm not a fan of that kind of thing. And that was certainly the audience for it because they liked playing along with the wrestlers, and there's always an audience somewhere for that, but that's not the kind of fan I am.
Well, and
I don't like those kind of spots.
Again, it was impressive once upon a time years ago when a big guy who did a vertical suplex would pick a guy up and hold him up there for 10 seconds to make the blood rush to his head, then slam him down. But it was, number one, it was usually in a singles match where there was no partner that could help. Secondly, it was 10 seconds. It wasn't a fucking 60 count, not even a minute, but 60, because here's this fucking clown holding the guy who's obviously balancing himself precariously, and with his other hand, he's counting along with the people, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Meanwhile, the partners get the other two members of the BBC in submission holds so they can't interfere, but they're just laying in submission holds for 60 seconds, and the referee is just staring at all of this with 6 guys in the ring so that this guy can do his phony fucking spot. And then the guy has to start helping him and shifting his weight around to not go down or whatever.
And again, it's a 6-man tag match, so while he's holding him in a suplex, everyone else just has to stay down.
Yes. In these holes that nobody's tapping to and nobody's really even selling because they're not looking, all the attention's on the other. And then again, if you'd have told a babyface 30 years ago, I'm going to pick you upside down and hold you where you're completely ineffectual and can't get out for 60 seconds and then suplex you, they said, fuck you. You're not. It makes me look like an idiot. So anyway, at that point, I said, I'm out. I skipped to the finish. Useless and Bandido had the most ridiculous, never-ending forearm exchange I've ever seen, where they wouldn't stop, where everybody else in the match was on the floor apparently just staring at it. And then Bandido went to the top, but Felix and Penthouse jumped in the ring and stood and watched, and then both of them dove onto Wheeler Useless's partners who were standing on the floor waiting to catch them, and Bandido did a splash off the top rope, and that was a 2 count. And then Bandido gave Useless some kind of move that I think that he botched, but I'm not sure what it was supposed to look like to begin with. And then several people did shit. And then Useless did the armpit fart elbows to Bandido and pinned him with some kind of roll-up. So they just did all the shit that they knew how to do, everybody, in this whole match. And when they were out of it, then the guy just beat the other guy with the simplest shit you could do.
The concerted effort to try to get Wheeler over continues. You know, the fans were into this. Got to say, they had a hot crowd for AEW in San Diego. That was certainly their crowd.
You know why, don't you?
Why?
Because they were all in San Diego. They were jacking it, baby.
Okay. Listen.
Jacking it, jack. Smacking it, smack. I want to go where AEW goes. They're jacking it. I want to watch them masturbate down to their toes. They're jacking it. I want to go to San Diego to watch Tony and the Plumber jack it. Oh, yo.
Unfortunately, the jacking that they're doing is the ticket prices. They get jacked.
Yes, they're jacking him way up.
But with Wheeler Yuta, see, that's the thing. The fans are reacting. And certainly Moxley, whatever we say about him, he's over with a large part of their audience. Claudio is along for the ride. Danielson wasn't really involved. He's on commentary, but he's over with their audience. The question is, Yuta, I like the idea of elevating and pushing young guys. The question is, it has to be it has to be the right guy. And the question is Wheeler Yuta the right guy?
I would buy Action Andretti over Wheeler Yuta.
Well, I was going to say, for all the complaints I've had about various people on the roster and just not believing their physicality, Wheeler Yuta, I'm sorry, even Moxley, I would believe over Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta's now won this match. They put him over Kenny Omega in the other thing. That's only happening because that's what Danielson and Moxley wanted to happen with this, obviously. Tony's not suggesting it, it's these guys. But why? Of all the people to elevate, he still looks like even after they're done with this whole thing, he still needs more time. He needs more weight, if we're going to be honest. But it seems like he's going to need more time and age and weight. But they're treating him like a young guy who is a clear-cut guy that should be elevated, like an Austin Theory. And not everyone's in that kind of shape, but I don't know. It should be someone imposing, not just someone they like.
It ought to be somebody that you can obviously tell stands half a chance of being a star attraction in the wrestling business instead of a kid that they like, that they want to hang around in their group. And that should be, it shouldn't be a talents call. It should be a Tony Khan call. Because the talent used to be smarter. Who did the Horsemen want to elevate? Lex Luger. The next $1 billion baby, at least you could see it. You know, these guys, they want to elevate midgets because they're friends. Anyway, and we were 20 minutes into the program before that whole thing was done, by the way. See our previous conversation about Long not being necessarily classic.